Hello, this is DIY Reptiles, and in a recent video I moved the dwarf striped catfish out of this community 125 gallon into a different community 125 gallon without all these small fish. So now I can add in the Cory catfish that were in the guppy tank or are in the guppy tank into this tank, and now they're in with the rest of their family, I guess, their brothers and sisters and parents, and they won't have any trouble in here because I took out the catfish. So as you can see, the one behind the bigger one is smaller, and it's probably going to be the smallest fish in here, and I won't have to worry about it because the catfish is over there. And here you can see the betta. It will be going in a 10 gallon over here. So I'm gonna have 4 10 gallons here, one for guppies, one for the betta. Well, I'll have one for the turtle, but I might not at the same time. So I really only need 2 going, and then the other 2 will be set up for like breeding tanks, I guess. So that is kind of the plan right now, but I will move the guppy tank as soon as I get a piece of plywood. So as you can see over here, there's these pieces of plywood, and that's the thickness I want, and we already have it. I just need to cut it, so I will do that eventually, and then I have to paint it, and then I'll put it and screw it here, and then it will go out farther than the actual stand to support the 10 gallons. And with that thickness, I really won't have to worry about anything. I mean, this 10 gallons been sitting, and it's going back a couple inches, and it's sitting there, and it's never, you know, it doesn't have a problem, and it's not even supported on all 4 corners. But that's what I like about 10 gallons, because they're just so tiny that it doesn't really matter all that much. So it's kind of the deal with that. So I cut the piece of plywood, and once it was cut, I painted it with black Rust-Oleum paint, which is like the gloss paint, which is the same paint that I used for the stand. And then I went ahead and put it where the 10 gallons will go, and I screwed it to the stand. Okay, so now that I have this board in and everything set up, I have the guppies, which are way less than I originally had, but they appear to be breeding because there's ones in there that are just way too tiny. And since the tank's been on the ground, like ever since it's been on the ground, I haven't paid any attention to the guppies. I just feed them once a day. So I probably should feed them a little bit more than that because there's babies, but whatever. They're in there with all the Japanese trapdoor snails and apple snails and pest snails, and then we have a little bitty tiny turtle. The turtle will not stay here, and the only tanks that we need set up and that I want to make sure are set up before I go back to school or whatever that's going to look like whenever summer kind of ends, what I want to be right here is a betta tank and the guppy tank. So I don't want the guppy tank to look like this, and I want to kind of set them up properly and nicely, and they're going to have a lot of plants in them, which includes, you know, like all the plants that are in here, and then also these plants down here. So because of that, I want to have a type of like proper substrate and just some other stuff as well. So I want to set those up, and first I'm going to start in the betta tank. I have to do some research because I have sand, and I've never used sand in an aquarium before, but I really want to, just to try it out, just to see what it's like. And then the other one, I do want to do a dirted tank. So that's the plan, or maybe I'll do a sand/dirted tank or something like that, but I need to do some research because what I want to do is I want to have the guppies in one tank and just guppies, and then we can have lots of hornwort and that stuff, maybe some stuff planted. Well, probably some stuff planted because this is what I plan to have as the dirted tank. And I'll probably just move that pot in there because I don't really want to I don't feel like repotting stuff, but I want more Italian Vallisneria. Vallisneria. I don't know why I always pronounce that wrong. Whatever. I want to have more of that because I feel like I could have like a really cool, I feel like I can get that plant to grow, and that would look really, really cool. So I want to do that in one of the tanks, but I really want this one to be super crowded, so I'll probably have mainly hornwort in there, and then I'll kind of escape this one, and then we'll see about the other 2. If I need just a planted tank where I just put some of the bigger Anubias or whatnot, then I will, and I can find fish to stock those. Like I've said a lot in the past, these 10 gallons I've been really excited about because it'll allow me to possibly have like a Cory catfish breeding tank and then like a rosy red minnow breeding tank, because you know those are only fish I have. So that's kind of the idea. But for now, I need to figure out how to get this air pump somewhere below these tanks where it doesn't make too much noise and it actually kind of like muffles the noise a little bit. I'm trying to think if I could kind of squeeze it in right there in that area. I might put like a towel on it, but my worry about that is because the turtles will bask there, and I'm worried that they will not like that like vibration. So I don't know about that. Maybe they won't think twice about it, so I'm not entirely sure. But the towel would be to make sure it kind of muffles it. That's kind of the idea, because I really dislike noise, which is fun because I always have water going in my room, so that's lovely. So I'll work on that, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I really didn't see any reason to show that. I just took a board and I put the air pump on top of it, and then I configured the airline tubing, and I just used some super glue to hold that board in place because I couldn't find any way to like screw it in. So that's just going to be there, and then if I need to take it off, easy to break it off, I'm sure. So now I have the airline tubing to the 2 sponge filters that are in here. So now that I'm at this point, I can start thinking more about this tank and the sand. So I did a little bit of research. It seems like the snails would do fine on sand. And now, just to be sure, just to like be sure of what I'm doing, I'm gonna look up a little bit about bettas and sand, and then I will go ahead and probably do the sand on here, like I said, and then probably use this as a dirted tank. Problem with that is that to do that, I'm gonna have to remove all the guppies and everything, so that'll be a little bit interesting, but that will be the plan for now. I have a bunch of the leftover dirt stuffs from the 55 gallon, and then as well I have all of those pebbles that I cannot use for any turtles. Same with the sand. I can't use the sand for any of the turtles, so I want to think about these scapes before I do them, because I'm using kind of weird resources that I don't normally use, but I want them to look pretty nice, and obviously not like super mulm filled like that, but these are where all my plants will be going, so I want them to look like pretty nice for just 10-gallon tanks. So pretty excited about this area. It should be pretty filled with plants because, like I said, all of my aquatic plants will be going in these for 10 gallons, so it should be pretty stocked. If you look over here at this Anubias plant, it's not super massive by any means, but it's like pretty big when you compare it to putting it into a 10-gallon tank. So that'd take up like half the tank easily. So that'll probably be the plan. I might just have like an Anubias tank, and that's probably where I'd put rosy red minnows or something like that. But I'm actually pretty excited about having the hornwort in the guppy tank because, as I said, I think they're breeding at this point, even though they're like super small to me, and I think that that'd be pretty cool. Plus I could put some marginal / terrestrial plants growing out of the top of it. As you see over here, I have this pothos, but I'm thinking it's kind of slowly dying out just from being, way too filled with water, I guess. So pothos plants for some reason seem to do that. If they're kept in like a filter or something for too long, they kind of get to a certain point where they stop growing, which is really disappointing because they look really nice. Like the leaves look really nice when they grow from the water, but it just gets to a point that it just doesn't. It stops growing. And the same thing's happening with the pothos. They're growing out of the 125 gallon. The roots don't stop growing. And as you can see, these roots are literally big enough to get to the bottom of the 125 gallon. They just need to, if I just moved around there, they could go down into the substrate, and that would be pretty neat. But the plant is not so lovely looking, so pothos I'll probably just keep with growing in the terrariums. But as you can see here, I found like my new favorite to grow out of the tank and everything is Creeping Jenny, because just look at that, it looks awesome. So I think that that will be my new go-to rather than Pothos. And also I have absolute ton of Wandering Jew, which I really love as well, because I mean it's purple, so I mean why wouldn't you love a plant that's purple? That's super cool. Okay, so stuff has happened since the last clip, and I'll be showing how I did all that up later on in a different video, not in this one. But basically just watching back what I'd filmed, what I have decided is that this tank will be, as I said, a dirted tank with gravel, and then I'll fill this with all of the hornwort, which for some reason my hornwort seems to be slowly getting smaller and like breaking up, so I'm hoping that when I put it in there, it's gonna like grow back. This is like most of the hornwort I have, and then I have, I don't know, other pieces around. So basically all the plants out of here need to go into there, and I will get off any other pieces of hornwort around this tank, and I'll just put them in with the guppies. And then, like I said, I'll do a dirted tank. As you can see here, I have that pot with all the plants that would grow out of a dirted tank. This will have the turtle in it, so there's not really anything else here. Same with this, like that's done. The betta will go in there. This tank I will do as a dirted tank with gravel, and then I will put all the Anubias plants in there. So I have that Anubias plant, that one, and that one, and I'll have those growing in there. And then I'm assuming I'm gonna bring in some of the rosy red minnows that are out in the pond, because I'm very successfully breeding rosy red minnows out in the pond, and I plan on breeding like just like netting some and then seeing, or not, I plan on raising some up over the winter to make sure I still have some. So I'll either give those their own dedicated tank, or I could just put them in with the betta as well. So I don't know, or maybe I'll do both, I don't know. I mean, I could probably even put them in with the turtle as well, and just have like all the tanks grow them all out, because I really don't want to like accidentally kill them in the pond. So that is kind of what's going on there. And then as far as plants go, that's pretty much it. I also need to get this lucky bamboo out of here. I'll probably put that in one of the 10 gallons, but other than that, that'll be all the plants from here. I'll have the Creeping Jenny growing outside, and then all of these marginal plants can stay. So hope that you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned to see how I set up the betta tank and how all that sand goes. I found out some interesting information going through all that, and yeah, it was actually pretty interesting. So I hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did, like it down below. If you have any comments or concerns, comments below, and if for more content, then subscribe. Have a fantastic day.